The stars above the planet Zelvar burned cold and bright. On the frozen plains below, Princess Alira of Silari stood at the window of her star cruiser, gazing out in silence. She looked calm, but inside her heart was heavy. Tomorrow, she was to be married to Prince Vorn of the Rethari Empire. It was a political deal, not love. The marriage would stop the war between their two powerful houses. But Alira didn't want to be a trophy. She was a warrior, trained in ancient Solari arts, sharp in mind and strong in will. Yet she had no choice. The council had made the decision. For peace, they said, as her cruiser moved across the frozen wasteland toward the Unity Moons. Something went wrong. Red lights flashed. Incoming ships, shouted her guard. Unmarked fighters' weapons hot. The attack was fast. Energy blasts rocked the cruiser. Alira was thrown to the floor. Her guards formed a circle around her, firing back. But the enemy was too many. "Princess, we must move," shouted Commander Tyrex. But it was too late. The hull broke. Alira saw a flash of light, then darkness. She woke up with snow falling. On her face, her body was sore, her dress torn, her crown missing. The cruiser had crashed into the ice fields. Smoke rose from the wreck. Her guards were gone, dead, or taken. Voices echoed nearby, rough, laughing, alien raiders. They moved through the wreckage. Looking for loot and her, Alira crouched behind a broken panel. She had no weapon, no communicator. Her heart pounded. Solari were taught to think clearly under stress. One of the raiders got close. Just as he raised his blaster, something hit him from the side. Hard, a figure in dark armor tackled him to the ground. The stranger moved fast, punching and striking. With brutal speed, Alira blinked. The man was not Solari, not Rethari. Not like anyone she'd seen in the royal circles. He was human, tall, broad-shouldered, face rough with stubble and a scar across one cheek. He wore old military armor patched with scrap metal. He had no blaster, just a metal rod and some homemade tech devices on his belt. He turned to her. His voice was deep. "You all right, Princess?" Alira stepped back. "Who are you?" "Names." "Jace. Jace Core. Mercenary. Scout. And today, Lucky." He grabbed the dead raider's blaster and tossed it to her. "Can you use that?" Alira narrowed her eyes. "I was trained in 7 weapons before I turned 10. Jace smirked. "Good, then cover me." More raiders came. Jace moved like a shadow, ducking and striking, using every part of the wreck. To his advantage, Alira fired with sharp aim, protecting his flank. Together, they drove the enemy back. When the fight was over, Jace scavenged supplies from the raiders. Alira watched him with cautious eyes. "Why did you help me?" Shrugged. Didn't like the way they were laughing. "That's it." Jace looked at her. "You want me to say it was honor or destiny?" "Sorry, Princess. I'm not that romantic." Alira frowned. "You are blunt. Better than fake." She didn't answer. The cold wind blew across the plains. They had no ship, no signal, and more raiders would come soon. "We need to move," Jace said. "It's a shelter about 10 clicks west. Old research post. Maybe still has power." "You know this area?" Alira asked. "I've lived in..." Worse, with no other choice, she followed him into the snow. The journey was hard. Ice cracked beneath their feet. Strange beasts howled in the distance. Alira, used to palaces and crystal halls, struggled to keep pace, but she never complained. Jace noticed. "You're tougher than you look. And you're smarter than you act," she replied. He laughed. Not sure if that's a compliment or an insult, a bit of both. They reached the research post by nightfall. It was half buried in ice, but Jace managed to pry the doors open. Inside, old lights flickered. The power still worked barely. They found food rations, clean water, and a small heating unit. Jace fixed the door shut with metal rods. Alira collapsed into a chair, shivering. Jace tossed her a blanket. Here she wrapped it around herself, watching him as he worked. "You move like a soldier," she said. "I was earthborn." Paused. "Yeah. Not that it matters. Nobody cares about Earth anymore." I thought Earth refused to join the Galactic Dominion. It did, and we paid the price. Alira saw something in his eyes. Pain, anger, loss. What happened? He shook his head. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. Hey. Jace sat down. When I was a kid, Earth was full of hope. We were different, stubborn, creative, wild. The Dominion wanted us to bow. He said no. They wiped us from the records, called us uncooperative, started closing our trade, cutting supplies, blocking tech. Then came the wars. Colonies fell. Cities burned. He looked at her. My family died. I ran. Survived in the wastelands. Learned to fight. Learned to hide. Lyra was silent. I thought the Solari were better. He added, more advanced. Civilized. She looked away. We are not so different. For a moment there was silence. Just the hum of the old heater. Then Alira spoke. Why do you call me princess? You're wearing royal threads. You speak like a diplomat, and the raiders wanted you alive. Means you're worth more than gold. You notice much for someone so unromantic. Jace smiled. Old habit. Staying alive means paying attention. Later, as they rested, Alira looked at the stars through the cracked roof. Do you believe in fate? She asked. No. I believe in choices, and yet you found me. Just in time. He didn't answer right away. Then he said maybe luck still has a sense of humor. She looked at him. The human warrior. The exile from Earth. He was rude, rough, not royal at all, but he had saved her life. And when the time came, he had chosen to fight. Outside, a distant rumble echoed through the plains. More trouble was coming, but inside the shelter for the first time in days, Alira felt something strange. Not fear, not anger, something else. Curiosity, and maybe it's a beginning of trust. The old research shelter was quiet, except for the soft hum of broken machines. Princess Alira woke early. Her body still ached from the crash, but her mind was sharper now. She sat near a broken console, watching Jace as he repaired a small drone using scrap parts. How long have you been here? She asked. Too long, he replied without looking up. 3 years, maybe 4. This moon has more wrecks than working tech. Good place to hide? You hide often? Only from people who want me dead. She tilted her head. Are there many? He gave her a dry smile. Too many. Alira had met many soldiers before. Trained, loyal, cold. But Jace was different. He didn't follow orders. Didn't show respect the way others did. Yet something about him felt. True, later that day, Jace took her outside. There's something I want to show you, he said. They walked through deep snow, past broken towers and ice-covered metal. Finally, they reached a hill where a strange stone arch stood. It was half buried in ice, but still pulsed with faint blue light. What is this? Alira asked, stepping closer. Old Solari tech, Jace said. Been here for hundreds of years. I found it 2 winters ago. Can't read the language, but I've seen it glow when I get close. Lyra reached out, placing her hand on the cold surface. Symbols lit up, spinning in patterns. It's a memory gate, she whispered. Only royal blood can open it. The gate shimmered. A beam of light shot out, forming a doorway. Without thinking, they stepped through. Inside was a massive underground chamber. The walls were covered in glowing murals, scenes of ancient times. Tall Solari figures stood beside humans. Lyra's breath caught. This is impossible. What do you see? Jace asked. She walked closer, her fingers brushing. The wall. This shows the first contact between Solari and humans, but it's older than any record we have. The council said we only met Earth 300 years ago, but this is much older. Jace frowned. Why hide it? Alira moved. To the center of the chamber, a large crystal stood on a pedestal. She placed her hand on it. The room shifted. A glowing figure appeared. A hologram. It was a Solari priestess. Welcome. Princess Alira of House Viren, the figure said. This is your family's legacy. Here lies the truth of the Union Pact, the bond between Solari and humanity. Lyra stared. The figure continued. 50 years ago, a ceremony took place. You were bonded by genetic oath to a human child, Jace Kor, son of Earth's last guardian. The bond was secret, meant to build peace between worlds. Jace stepped back. What are you talking about? You are the High Consort, the figure said, turning to him. By ancient law, you are husband to the Solari heir. Silence. Illyra's hands shook. No, that can't be. I never married anyone, Jace said. This is wrong. But the crystal glowed stronger. The symbols on the wall responded to their presence. It was a soul bond, the figure explained. Too dangerous for public knowledge. After the failure of the alliance, memories were sealed, the pact hidden. Earth was exiled, the bond forgotten. But why? Lyra whispered. Why hide the truth? To control the future, the figure said. Some feared unity, feared love. The light faded. Illyra stepped away, her mind spinning. Jace looked at her arms crossed. So, we're married. No, she said quickly. It was a child's ceremony, a political move. Jace raised an eyebrow. Still counts, apparently. She turned sharply. I don't accept it. Good, neither do I. They stood in silence. But something inside both of them had changed. Back at the shelter, the mood was cold. Lyra sat by the heater, staring at the floor. Jace fixed his weapon quietly. I didn't ask for this, she finally said. Me either. No. Supposed to marry Prince Vorn tomorrow? Jace looked up, still planning to go through with that. It's my duty, he snorted. Your duty got you shot down and nearly kidnapped. She glared. And you think running around fixing drones is better? I think freedom's better. She looked away after a moment. He said, You really don't remember anything about the ceremony? No, nothing. Just stories about Earth, about how your people were dangerous, unstable. He laughed. That's rich. Its Solari destroyed 3 moons just to build 1 palace. She frowned. That's history. That's control. Silence stretched. Then Jace stood. I'm going to the ruins nearby. There's an old signal tower. If I can boost the range, maybe I can call for help. I'm coming with you. He hesitated. It's dangerous. I've seen worse. Together, they left. The ruins were old, broken by war and weather. Inside the tower, Jace worked fast, connecting wires and bypassing old codes. Illyra explored a nearby chamber. Strange. Carvings caught her eye, Solari and human symbols together. In the center was a stone tablet. She touched it. The tablet lit up. Words appeared in her language. To the one who carries the flame of unity, remember your vow. Her fingers traced the words. What is this place? She asked. Jack looked up. Maybe it's where it all started. She stared at him. You think this is real? She asked. The bond? The past? He shrugged. I don't know. But someone went to a lot of trouble to erase it. And that scares me, Illyra whispered. Because if it's true, it means I've been lied to my whole life. And if it's not, Jace asked, then we find the truth anyway. Jace gave a small nod. Now you're starting to sound like a human. That night, back at the shelter, a message came through Jace's cum device. Unmarked ship incoming, it said. Bounty. Contract issued. Target, human male, Jace Kor, secondary, Solari Royal. Jace's face hardened. They found us. Lyra's voice was firm. Then we fight. You sure you're ready for that, princess? She stood tall. Not running. Not anymore. Outside, under the starlight, the two stood side by side. A human warrior with nothing to lose, and a Solari princess who had just begun to question everything. They had no idea what the galaxy had planned for them, but one thing was clear. This bond, this forgotten marriage, was the key to something much bigger, and now everyone wanted to stop them from unlocking it. Snow fell quietly outside the shelter as Illyra checked her blaster. Her eyes were calm, but her heart was full of fire. She was not the same princess who had stood on a royal cruiser days ago, waiting to marry a man she didn't love. Now she knew the truth, or at least part of it. Jay sat across from her, loading energy cells into his rifle. His movements were fast and practiced. His face was focused. The message from the bounty hunter still echoed in his mind. Target, Jace Core. Secondary, Solari Royal. Someone wanted them dead. Not captured. Not returned. Dead. How many ships? Do you think are coming? Alira asked. Hard to say, Jace replied. But bounty hunters usually travel in small groups. Be 6 to 10 fighters. Could be more if the reward is high. You've fought them before? Too many times. They don't fight fair. Traps, poisons, energy nets, whatever works. Alira nodded. Then we fight smarter. Jace looked at her with a half smile. You're catching on. They spent the next few hours setting traps around the ruins. Jace planted EMP mines. Near the outer walls, Alira used her tech bracelet to activate old defense drones buried under the snow. She moved with grace, calm, and clever. Jace began to respect her more with every hour. She's no spoiled royal, he thought. She's dangerous in the right way. As they finished setting up, Alira walked to the hill where the ancient gate had stood. The wind was strong, but she didn't care. Her mind was full of questions. Was she truly bonded to Jace? Genetic? Marriage done in childhood? Why had her memories been sealed? It would have ordered it. She touched the place where the hologram had appeared before. Well, nothing happened now. But her thoughts did not stop. Jace joined her, carrying 2 ration bars. He handed her one. Didn't think you'd come out here alone, he said. I needed to think. Still trying to decide if I'm your husband? He joked lightly. She turned to him. It's not funny, he sighed. No, it's not. There was silence for a while. Then Jace said, I don't remember it either. The bond. The ceremony. But I've had flashes, dreams, voices. I thought I was going crazy. Alira looked at him, surprised. Why didn't you say that before? Because I didn't know what it meant. I didn't trust anyone. You still don't. He smirked. Except maybe you. A little. She allowed herself a small smile. That's a start. At night the attack came. Flashing lights. Lit up the snowfield. 6 bounty hunter ships landed near the ruins. Tall figures in dark armor marched forward, scanning for life signs. They had heavy weapons, drones, tracking tech. JACE and Alira watched from a hidden platform. Wait for my signal, Jace whispered. The hunters entered the ruins. Jace pressed a button. Boom. The EMP mines exploded, frying the drones. 2 hunters fell immediately. The others shouted and fired randomly. Alira jumped down from above, spinning and firing her blaster with perfect aim. Jace moved from the shadows, striking fast and hard. The battle was fierce. But the traps, the planning, and their teamwork made all the difference. In 10 minutes, it was over. Only 1 hunter remained, crawling in the snow. Jace walked over and grabbed him by the collar. Who sent you? He growled. The man coughed. Council didn't say. Just big reward. Both of you. Too dangerous, Jace dropped him. The man passed out from pain. Alira's eyes were full of fire. The council, my council, they want me dead. They returned to the shelter, cold and tired, but alive. Alira sat by the heater. Her voice was quiet. They erased the bond because they feared it, feared what it meant. Jace nodded. A human bonded to Solari royalty is an equal, but breaks their control. He said Earth was unstable, violent. They were right about one thing, Jace said. We don't kneel easy. She looked at him. Neither do I. The next day, Alira activated the research post's old communication tower. With Jace's help, she sent a private signal to her old mentor, High Scholar Velron. He was one of the few people she trusted on the council. If he responds, she said, we'll know if there's still hope. An hour later, the message came. A blurry hologram appeared. Velron's face looked older, more tired than she remembered. Alira, he said, you must not return to Solari Prime. The council has issued an order of silence. They fear your knowledge of the bonding vault. So it's true, Alira said. Velron nodded. Yes, you were bonded to Jace Core as a child. I fought too. Protect the pact. I failed. They erased your memories, hid the ceremony, buried the truth. Why? She asked. Because your union would give Earth a voice, a place at the table, and the Council fears any power they can't control. Lyra's eyes narrowed. They tried to kill me. Valrun's voice shook. I am sorry. You are both in danger. But the truth is stronger than lies. If you can reach the ancient vault on Ilex 9, you will find full records of the pact. The real story? Then decide your own future. The hologram ended. Alira stood in silence. Jay spoke first. We go to Ilex 9. She nodded. Yes, we show the galaxy what they tried to erase. They repaired an old ship from the ruins, a rusty freighter with slow engines but a working stealth drive. It took 2 days. They worked side by side, arguing, laughing, learning each other's rhythm. On the third morning, the ship was ready. Alira stood at the ramp, looking back at the frozen plains one last time. This place changed me, she said. Same here, Jay said. They looked at each other once. They were strangers. Now they were more. Not lovers yet. Not even friends. Fully, but something deeper. A strange bond neither fully understood, but could no longer deny. As the ship lifted off, flying toward Ilex 9, both of them knew one thing. The past had been buried. The present was dangerous. But the future was theirs to fight for, together. The stars stretched across the dark sky as Jace and Alira's ship glided silently through space. The stolen freighter was old, slow, and scratched from years of battles, but it was flying. That was enough. Jace sat in the pilot seat, eyes focused. On the blinking lights on the control panel, Lyra stood beside him, watching the map. We're 2 hours away from Ilex 9, Jace said. Still no sign of pursuit? That won't last, Alira replied. The Council won't stop. Now, Jace looked at her. You sure about this? Once the vault is open, the truth can't be hidden again. Alira nodded firmly. I was raised in a palace of lies. I want to live in truth now, even if it destroys everything I knew. Jace gave a small smile. Sounds like something a human would say. She smiled too. Maybe I've changed. Ix-9 was a ghost planet. Cold, silent, forgotten. Once it was home to a great Solari research colony, but it was abandoned long ago. Now, only ruins remained under the thick red clouds. The freighter landed on a cracked stone platform near a massive cliff wall. Ancient pillars stood like broken teeth, half buried in dust and vines. This place gives me bad vibes, Jace muttered, loading his rifle. Alira activated her tech bracelet. A blue light scanned the area, showing hidden paths and energy signals. The vault is under that cliff. Still powered, but only just. We have to be fast. They walked carefully through the ruins, past shattered statues and fallen metal. Strange carvings covered the walls. Jace couldn't read them, but Alira translated softly. Unity through memory. Truth through blood. As they reached a heavy stone door, Alira placed her hand on the center symbol. Nothing happened. Jace stepped forward. Maybe it needs both of us. He placed his hand beside hers. Suddenly, the symbols glowed bright gold. The door rumbled and slid open, revealing a spiral stairwell that led deep underground. Looks like the vault wants us together, Jace said. Alira gave him a sharp look. Don't get romantic. Too late. Inside the vault, the air was dry and still. Lights flickered as the old systems woke up. The walls were lined with glowing data crystals, containing history long forgotten. A central platform rose in the middle of the room. On it stood a tall silver pedestal shaped like a flame. This is it, Alira whispered. The eternal flame of union. She stepped forward, activating the vault. A hologram appeared, an image of the day of the bond. It was a memory. Alira gasped. She saw herself a child, maybe 5 years old, dressed in white. Standing beside a small human boy with dark eyes and messy hair. Jay said their hands were tied with a glowing thread. Around them stood Solari leaders and Earth's last guardians. The voice of the priestess echoed by this sacred thread. We bind Alira of Viren and Jace Kor, son of Earth. Their souls shall be one, guardians of peace and heirs to both stars. The thread flashed. The children smiled. Then everything faded. Alira blinked, her body trembling. I remember, she said quietly. I remember the light. Your hand in mine. The warmth. Jace stood frozen, eyes wide. So do I. The flame on the pedestal burned brighter. Suddenly, an alarm screamed through the vault. Jace spun around. We've got company. The hologram vanished. Doors slammed shut. Lights turned red. A robotic voice echoed. Security breach. Intruders detected. Alira pulled her blaster. They followed us. Outside the vault, 2 council ships landed hard on the ruins. Soldiers in black armor stormed the stairs, weapons ready. With them was a tall, cold-looking man in silver robes. Counselor Darvin Jace peeked through a crack in the vault's side door. Darvin, I should have guessed. Alira's face turned pale. He was my father's advisor. He led the memory erasure project. Well, looks like he's here to finish the job. Alira opened a hidden panel in the wall and grabbed 2 power cores. These control the vault's broadcast. If we get them to the surface tower, we can send the truth to every corner of the galaxy. Let's move then. They raced through the underground tunnels as the council troops stormed. The vault. Blaster fire echoed behind them. One shot grazed Alira's arm. She winced but kept running. Jace fired back, covering their retreat. They reached the surface and ran to the signal tower, massive antenna built long ago for deep space transmissions. As they reached the base, Counselor Darvin stepped out from behind a fallen column. Stop right there, he ordered. Blaster pointed at Jace. Dozens of soldiers aimed their weapons. Alira froze. You won't kill us. You need to erase our minds again. Darvin smiled coldly. No, princess, that was the old plan. Now, your deaths will serve as proof that Earth and Solari can never unite. You'll die as traitors, not symbols. Stepped forward. You're scared. That's why you came yourself. The truth terrifies you. Darvan raised his blaster, suddenly dash boom. The old defense system activated. Jace had triggered a trap with his foot. Old Solari drones flew out of the walls, blasting at the soldiers. Go. Jace shouted. Get to the tower. Lyra ran, clutching the power cores. Jace fought with fury, protecting her from every angle. He moved like a storm, like the warrior he was born to be. She reached the console and slammed the cores into place. The tower lit up. A hologram formed in the sky, a beam of light carrying the memory from the vault. Across space, screens lit up. Ships, stations. Planet Sol saw the same thing. The truth, the marriage, the forgotten bond between Earth and Solari. The Council's lies were burned away in seconds. Darvin screamed, shut it down. Too late. The people knew now. Jace took a shot to the shoulder, but kept fighting. Lyra grabbed a rifle from the ground and covered him. Together, they fought side by side until the last ship retreated. The Council troops ran. The signal tower kept glowing. They had one. Later, they sat by the ship. Wounded, but alive. Alira leaned against the wall. Her arm bandaged, Jay sat beside her, one arm in a sling. Guess we're famous now, he joked. She laughed softly. It's more like dangerous symbols of rebellion. He looked at her. Do you regret it? She turned to him. No, do you? He shook his head. No, but I still don't understand what this bond really means. We didn't choose it. It was forced on us. I know, Alira said. But we can choose what happens now. He looked into her eyes. What do you want, princess? She smiled. Call me Alira. He smiled back. Okay, Alira. She touched his hand gently. Let's find out who we really are together. Not because of an old ceremony, but because I want to. Jace squeezed her hand. No more lies. No more running. Only the future. The stars above Ilex 9 shined brighter now. News of the secret bond between Princess Alira and the human warrior Jace Core had spread like fire across the galaxy. Millions had seen the Memory 2 children joined by a glowing thread, a sacred union made to bring peace between Earth and Solari. Now, no one could deny the truth, and the Council could no longer hide behind lies, but victory had a price. Alira walked quietly along the edge of the broken platform, looking down at the valleys below. Her arm still ached from the blaster wound. The wind blew softly through her silver hair. Behind her, Jace sat against the wall of their ship, cleaning his rifle. He had taken a hard hit during the fight. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages, but he acted like it was nothing. "You're thinking again," Jace said, without looking up. Alira smiled slightly. "I do that a lot. Dangerous habit. I'm thinking about what comes next." Jace stood and walked over. "You mean the Council? They'll strike again? They may fall, but not quietly." Jace nodded. "So what do we do?" She looked at him, her eyes filled with fire. "We lead." A week passed. Alira and Jace traveled to neutral space, where thousands of ships had gathered near the twin moons of Varin. Rebels, freedom fighters, Solari outcasts, Earthborn warriors people. From every system, they came not just to see the bonded ones, they came to follow them. Alira stood on the command platform of the freighter-turned flagship. Her voice echoed through every comlink, every screen. "I was born a princess, but I was lied to. My memories were stolen, my freedom taken. I was told Earth was wild and weak, but I met a human Jace Core, my bonded, my equal, and he showed me something. Greater than power, he showed me truth, courage, love. The Council fears this bond because it makes us one. They fear Earth because humans do not kneel. But I say this, let the old rulers fall, let the stars be shared. Let us rise, not as Solari or human, but as united guardians of peace." The fleet cheered. Jace stood behind her, arms crossed. He hated speeches, but this one gave him chills. She wasn't just a princess now. She was a leader, his partner. As their movement grew stronger, the Council began to crack. 3 of the 9 members resigned. A 4th escaped into hiding. Protests broke out on Solari Prime. Earth's colonies raised their banners and joined Alira's cause. But Counselor Darvin was still out there, and he wasn't done. 3 nights later, while flying through the core drift, the flagship was ambushed. Darvin had brought a secret fleet cloaked warships, ancient Solari war drones, and mercenaries paid in blood. The battle was fast and violent. Lasers cut through space. Explosions shook the hull, inside the ship. Alarms screamed. Jace grabbed Alira's hand. "We need to get you to the escape pod." "No," she shouted. "I'm not running again." "You're not running. You're surviving. I survive with you." Before he could argue, the ship was hit again. Sparks flew. Fire burst from a sidewall. Suddenly, Darvin's voice echoed. "Over the come, Alira. Give yourself up, and the others may live. You cannot win this. The bond means nothing. You are not queen. You're a mistake." She looked at Jace, then back at the screen. Then she stepped forward and replied, "No. Darvin, you are the mistake. Your time is over." She turned to her crew. "Ready the core cannon?" Jace's eyes widened. "That thing barely works." "Then we make it work." Together, they ran to the lower decks. The core cannon hadn't been fired in years, but it still had power. Alira rerouted the shield energy while Jace hotwired the firing system. Outside, Darvin's fleet drew closer. Inside, the energy core began to glow. "Now?" Alira shouted. Jace slammed the button. Boom. Shockwave blasted from the ship like a star exploding. 3 of Darvin's warships were instantly destroyed. The rest scattered in fear. Darvin himself escaped in a dark cruiser, wounded and silent. The battle was won, but Jace had collapsed. Later in the ship's med bay, Alira sat beside him. He was pale, with burns on his arms and chest. The med droid worked fast, but the damage was serious. She held his hand tightly. "You can't leave me," she whispered. "We're not done." He smiled weakly. "We're just getting started." Tears ran down her face, But she laughed too. Stubborn. Ridiculous, brave human. His eyes closed gently. You forgot, handsome. She laughed again, shaking her head. I love you, she whispered. And this time, she meant it not because of a ceremony or duty, but because it was true. He squeezed her hand once before sleep. Took him. 3 months later, the council was gone. The remaining members surrendered. Darwin was captured trying to escape through a black market portal. His trial was broadcast across the stars. Earth was no longer ignored. It was respected Solari. Prime now had a new flag, half silver, half blue, showing unity between two worlds and one dice. At the center of this change stood Alira and Jace. The bonded, they stood together before the grand hall of worlds. Leaders of every system gathered to hear them speak. Jace wore a dark armor coat, his scars showing proudly. Alira wore no crown. She didn't need one. I never thought I'd stand here, Jace said with a smile. I was just a soldier. Ghost. A weapon. He turned to Alira. But then she found me. And reminded me I was also a man, a husband, a protector of peace. Alira smiled, holding his hand. And he reminded me, she said, that royalty means nothing if it forgets its people. That courage comes not from birth but from choice. That love is not weakness. It is the greatest power. The crowd rose to their feet, not in silence, but in thunderous applause. That night, in the quiet garden of their new home on Viron, Jace sat with Alira under the stars. Remember the first time we met? She asked. He chuckled. You tried to shoot me. You were rude. You were bossy. You were stubborn. He looked at her softly. You were perfect. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you think we would have still fallen? In love without the bond? Jace thought for a moment. Maybe, maybe not. But I know this: we chose each other. That's what matters. She smiled. Then let's keep choosing. Every day. He kissed her forehead, and the stars above seemed to shine just a little brighter.